This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. And folks, I was born in 1972, and that was the year Fritz the Cat came out. And that was, I believe, the first film by director Ralph Bakshi. And of course, Fritz the Cat celebrates 50 years, as myself does. Well, Bakshi's got, more than one film celebrating an anniversary, and we're going to be celebrating another such film. We're going to be celebrating the 30th anniversary of Cool World. That's right. Ralph Bakshi tackles Who Framed Roger Rabbit territory, only with a different flavor. And folks, I have Sparks himself on the show with me today. Mr. Michael Lally. How do you do, Mike?
How you doing?
That's great.
When I did movie and TV work as an actor, I was billed as Michael David Lally because somebody already had the name Michael Lally in the Screen Actors Guild.
Ah. Well, that's always bound to happen. Michael J. Fox wasn't allowed to be Michael Fox either. He had to put the J in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, you're the first person I ever encountered that had the last name Lally. I don't. Where does that originate?
Western Ireland.
Okay. All right.
If you go over there, it's everywhere. In fact, if you go on IMDb, quite often they'll have a credit from me for an Irish actor, also Michael Lally. No, he passed away recently. Known there mostly as Mick Lally.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know through correspondence with you before, getting this set up, you're also heavily into poetry, and I know you was doing a poetry reading the other day when we corresponded. I take it you have a massive passion for poetry. Would you like to go into that?
I started life in 1942 as the youngest in a big Irish American working class family in New Jersey. And for some reason, turns out my father, who was a seventh grade dropout, used to write rhymed poems on the holidays to his customers in his home repair business. And so maybe I got it from there. But though poetry and the idea of poet as a designation for a person was kind of common and sort of elevated in that environment. So that's probably where it came from. But I started writing poetry as soon as I could write. I started acting and playing music pretty early on too.
So,
Poetry was certainly what I was most known for, and am most known for.
there you go. So while I'm celebrating 50 years, you're celebrating 39 years.
How'd you get that?
I'm pulling your leg.
Jack Benny?
Yeah. 1942, that was the year Casablanca and Bambi, stuff like that came out. Wow.
Great movie.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, sharing a birth year of Casablanca, not a bad deal.
No, every time I watch TCM a lot, and every time one of the movies comes on from my childhood or that era, I was the youngest of seven, six of us who made it growing up, and all of them gone now, except me. So I not only plugged into the culture of that moment, I plugged into the previous years through my older siblings. So whenever I see those movies, I get lost in the environment, in the sets, the old phones, the old technologies.
Oh, yeah.
The old styles. it's time traveling.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm there in that period while I'm watching that movie.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about watching movies is
Oh yeah.
losing your mind and your imagination within the story. Now, of course, I have mentioned, of course, I was looking at I was looking up some stuff on you, and there was something. Let me bring it up here because there was something I wanted to ask you about. Oh, something something about you being a pilot.
No,
No, that's not true.
I was in the Air Force, and
Okay, that's what I read.
at some point somewhere someone wrote that I was a pilot, but I never was.
Okay, all right. Well,
I
that
was a
solves
low,
that problem.
I was a lowly enlisted man
Okay.
who got court-martialed, so I spent 4 years and never even made it to sergeant. I was kind of a punk.
Okay. Well, let's talk about Cool World, because I've had Ralph Bakshi on the show here twice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I was quite honored to get him because originally when I reached out, he was supposed to come on. This was 2017. I first had him on, and he wanted to promote the last days of Coney Island. And he was crowdfunding. If I remember correctly, it was crowdfunding that project, and it fell through. And my interview with him ended up being canceled, which really crushed me because I really wanted to have him on the show. But that was 2016. But I held hope because I knew Fritz the Cat was going to celebrate its anniversary the following year. And I thought, I'm going to pitch the anniversary of that film and see if I can make it happen. And I did just that. And he responded, and it's like, okay, let's do this. And I was under the impression he just kind of wanted me to leave him alone, but he was being polite about it. However, it turned out to be one of the greatest interview experience of my life because I knew Fritz the Cat well, and I knew his other films fairly well. And when I did the interview with him, I think he was quite struck by how well I knew the film because I knew some of the details, and he loved that I asked about Bo Diddley's song in the movie. He loved that I asked about Pacific scenes. And by the end of the interview, and this was something that really touched me, he said that he's been interviewed by a lot of people, but he said this was one of the best ones he had ever done. And I gotta say, I was quite touched by that. And he came on the following year for Heavy Traffic's anniversary, and we were supposed to do a third, but it never came to fruition. So I've reached out to him a few times, but I think he just kind of wants to retire and enjoy life, I guess. So I don't take it personally. I had him twice, so that was more than I ever thought I would. So that was a wonderful experience having Ralph Bakshi on the show. So, what were your memories of Ralph Bakshi?
I moved to LA from New York City in 1982.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I was turning 40 that year. I had married my first wife, and I had two children. We had divorced. She was in a coma, which lasted for 6 years before she passed. And I was raising my kids on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And I married an actress named Penelope Milford, who had been nominated for an Oscar a few years before for Coming Home. And I had just started acting professionally in movies. I had been in many underground and independent films over the years, mostly as my poet self, but sometimes actually acting. And I decided before I met Penny to try and find a niche for myself in the movie world.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. I starred in a couple of horror movies in New York and low budget independent things.
Mm-hmm.
Got into SAG, so on. And when I married Penny, we decided Hollywood would be it would be a good move. So we moved to Santa Monica, and one of our first nights there, I just had two books of poetry come out. One of them was called Hollywood Magic. And we were eating dinner in this house we were renting in Santa Monica with my two kids at the table when the phone rang and I got up and answered. And the way I remember it, we all have our own perspectives, but I do take notes because I am a writer and I keep journals. The way I remember it, the voice on the phone said something like, I was born in Brooklyn in 1942. Who discovered rock and roll first, me or you? Something like that. And I said, who the fuck is this? I wasn't the decrepit old man you see here now with Parkinson's. I was a pretty forceful young guy. Anyway, he said, my name's Ralph Bakshi. I make movies. I came out to Hollywood to make my first live action movie, but instead lost my soul. I just read your book, Hollywood Magic. I think you can help me get it back. Can't say no to that.
No.
So he had me come to the Paramount lot. I think it was the Paramount lot, where he had a screening room scheduled for just him and me to show the movie, Shirley Clark movie, The Cool World.
Mm-hmm.
One of my all-time favorite movies, which either I had mentioned to him or he figured out, and he was doing a private screening. It's impossible to get the hold of. You have to go to UCLA and get a screening room or something. They won't, if for some reason it's not available. Streaming it, maybe by now somewhere. But it's one of the best movies ever made. Certainly the best independent movie by a woman director about a black subject matter with a soundtrack by Dizzy Gillespie and all these great jazz guys. It's a fucking amazing movie. And he screened it for me, I think to impress me, which it
Mm-hmm.
did. Which it did. I was new to Hollywood. Here we are sitting in like all the movie scenes you've seen of executives sitting in those little screening rooms, roll the film, It was like that, but it was just him and me. So, we became soul brothers through that connection of the cool world, Shirley Clark's, I think, 1960 movie or 63. And then he introduced me to Hubert Selby Jr., the author of Last Exit to Brooklyn,
Mm-hmm.
saying, you guys are my favorite writers. I want you to meet, like James Joyce and somebody, Hemingway or something. I didn't quite get Selby right away, but we ended up becoming really, really, really close friends till his death. Ralph and I became good friends too. We spent, after that encounter, we spent time together because he was working on a movie that he wanted to be all live action and had a guy named Al Ruddy. There's a streaming movie about him right now. He's played by Miles Teller.
Mm-hmm.
About how he made the deal for The Godfather. So Al Ruddy was one of the producers of The Godfather. So he was getting him to pay for me to write a screenplay. Had nothing to do with the cool world. It wasn't happening yet. And I wrote the movie, and him and Rite would fight over what I wrote because it was too expensive to film it or whatever. It's a motorcycle movie. Had a lot of fun doing it. So we saw each other every day, basically, while we worked on this project. And fantasized about him becoming a live action director and me being his De Niro to his Marty Scorsese. It was a wonderful time. And I have in my archives, I have a placemat at a place we ate breakfast at all the time, and he would doodle on the placemat, cartoon figures. It's in my archives at NYU. Anyway, it was a great relationship for quite a while. And then they didn't want to make it the way I wrote it. It's really realistic and tough and a beautiful story. They wanted to turn it into some Hollywood bullshit. You can see why I didn't have a great career there. This is the way I talk to people there.
You
So
know what? I don't blame you.
very good.
It's hard to get your vision out there in Hollywood,
So
especially when
anyway,
studios. Yeah.
he ended up having to do. They made a compromise. You could do a half live action movie with a lot of animation, which became the cool world. But at the time, I already was having white hair, and I was a jazz pianist from early in life. So I added that element to Sparks of him scat singing. But we had to keep doing it over again because they find little snippets of some song and be afraid they were going to have to pay for the rights to it. You know, probably when I first did it, it was something like that, a little monk song, you know. Couldn't do that, and then a Miles song. So I finally came up with my own thing for Sparks. But I hadn't, Ralph and I hadn't been seeing each other as often when he called and asked if I would do the voice of Sparks, which I was happy to do.
Yeah. So I know you touched on this a little bit when you spoke of it, but when you read the script and um, and you knew you were going to be voicing Sparks, what did you bring to it? Is there anything about that character that you brought in
Oh,
personally or something
oh
that you
yeah.
could relate to? Yeah.
As I remembered, I might be wrong on this, but as I remembered, I bought the whole idea of him being a hip cat,
Mm-hmm.
jazz cat, you know. So like I can't do it now because of the Parkinson. But
I'm
you know,
sorry. My mom's got Parkinson's. I'm sorry.
yeah, you know, it's not fun. But
No.
anyway, I can't get the voice right, but it was something like, "Hey, what you doing over there?" I can't
Mm-hmm.
do it. It's more gravelly. So I came up with that voice. I remember one of the first screenings, a bunch of young guys, most of them of color, were quoting lines after the screening of Sparks. So I was like, cool, I made an impression. Something about, I can't remember the line, something about, where's my fucking French fries? Or something like that. Where's my fucking French fries? I was more or less doing Miles Davis, who is one of my icons.
Well, Cool World was definitely a cool movie. It's always nice to see live action and animation interact. It's always been one of the. I mean, it's been going on for decades. I mean, Mary Poppins did it, and
Gene
even the
Kelly, Gene Kelly dancing with Jerry the mouse.
yep, yep, absolutely. So it's gone way, way back. And Did you go to the premiere of Cool World when it was released?
I can't. I don't have a memory of that. I'm sure I did,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not. I don't have a specific memory.
Yeah. Do you? I remember when I interviewed Bakshi, he had a few issues with Cool World and how uh, elements of how it turned out. Do you remember anything about that?
Yeah, I remember him having some complaints.
Mm-hmm.
Some complaints about one of the actors, not Brad Pitt, by the way, who, as I remember it, he said was so easy to work
Mm-hmm.
with, which I've heard, and some studio stuff.
Yeah.
I
No.
mean, one of Ralph's favorite stories in my time of friendship with him was they did a gala opening of Coonskin,
Mm-hmm.
that movie,
Yep, I know that movie.
at the Museum of Modern Art. And it was a gala to raise money for the museum. And people were there in tuxes and gowns, and it was ultra white. And the curtain goes up and the lights come down. And on the screen, this black cartoon character walks across the stage, kind of shuffles across the screen. When he gets halfway, right in the middle, he turns around and looks at the audience. Fuck you. And he turns and walks off. And I actually loved that moment that he got an opportunity to say that to that crowd. So I don't remember the screening or opening. Was Kim there? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know. Did you get to meet Brad Pitt or Kim Basinger for that movie?
I knew Kim because one of my best friends is out in Poland, and he was with her at the time. So
Mm-hmm.
I knew her, but I didn't know that she had agoraphobia and had difficulty going out. I mostly talked to her on the phone when I called over there. We'd chat a little bit and then she'd get out. So I didn't know her. And then our cartoon characters, have scenes together.
Oh yeah.
But the way I understood it was she liked to work with a minimal amount of people. She had, phobias.
Mm-hmm.
God bless her. And so she did. I wasn't on schedule to do my scenes with her. So I read with an assistant director.
Mm-hmm.
She read with an assistant director. And they called me late at night, like midnight or 1 in the morning or something. And they had been working on scenes with oh my goodness, my brain goes.
Gabriel Byrne?
Oh, Kim.
Oh, Kim.
Yeah, sorry, you're dealing with an old guy with a.
No, no, no. Take your time,
Kim, yeah, they called me. And Kim, they've been working on scenes with Kim, and they weren't working for her. So she decided that she needed the actor, so they wanted me to come in. And then they made the mistake of saying, and since it's night and we won't bother with anything, we'll just pay you cash. And I've been ripped off so much in Hollywood over and over again. They're just constantly trying to rip off, not the stars. They can't fuck with them. They're too powerful. They have big attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
But, the actors like me who did the small parts, they'd constantly chisel us, so I'd have to get my agent. I said, well, I'll call my agent to make sure it's okay. And they went, no, don't do that. So anyway, whoever was on the phone, some guy, was nickel and diming me. And I said, I ain't getting that out of fucking bed and driving to a goddamn studio in the middle of the night without getting paid the correct amount of money, you know, overtime, whatever that money would be. I don't know. Can't think of it now, but so I didn't go, which
Mm-hmm.
may have bothered Kim. I don't know. I don't know if we never talked. And then I didn't, I wasn't in touch with her. So that's
Well,
my memory of that.
well, 1992 was a pretty big year for you because not only did you do Cool World, you played a detective in Basic Instinct.
Yeah, it was a very tiny role. I'll tell you
Mm-hmm.
that story too.
Yeah.
Sharon Stone is a good old friend of mine.
Okay.
I've known her since before she was in movies.
Okay.
She was living off the Bowery in Manhattan, fourth or fifth floor walk up. Young woman, independent, strong, incredibly smart, starting to make a little money as a model. Had just done the Woody Allen movie where she's on the other train.
Mm-hmm.
Star, was that called? Stardust or something?
Stardust Memories.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's an opening scene where Woody's on a train and everybody's old and looking like me now. And he looks over and there's another train with all kinds of people partying, happy, beautiful, and this beautiful young blonde is staring at him, with Sharon. Anyway, we became friends from those days on, still on. And she asked me to come in. She asked me to be the body double in some of the intimate scenes
Mm-hmm.
rather than working with a stranger. They didn't want me for that. And what was the name of the director of that movie?
Paul Verhoeven.
Paul Verhoeven. This is the way Paul Verhoeven operated, at least with me. So they called me in to audition for another role, one of the other detectives, one of the bigger detective parts, like his partner. And Verhoeven just had a camera on his shoulder, relatively new then, pretty big motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
Never took it away, never spoke to me face to face. They had me do the scene. And then when we were done, I said, why are we wasting time? You know I'm not going to be the second lead. Because I was young and I had gray hair, but I was I was taller than Michael Douglas and thin, and I just wouldn't be the right guy for that role, the partner role. So he said, what role do you want to audition for? I said, the lead. What the fuck else? So he said, okay, prepare a scene. So I prepared a scene and came in and did it, same thing. And of course didn't get it. And then years later, then when the movie came out, I went to a screening with Sharon. Remember, she was dating Dwight Yoakam at the time. It was the three of us. Another one of those screening rooms. And I thought to myself, Michael's doing me a little bit. And I would say that to people in Hollywood, and they go, fucking Lally, he's such an egotist. Always thinks people are ripping him off. They were quite often, but people didn't believe it. Everybody got ripped off in Hollywood. That's the nature of that game. But years later, I'm back living in Jersey, retired from the business, and there's some AFI thing or Oscar, I don't know what show it was, but it was a tribute to Michael Douglas, and they had clips from his movies, and they had a couple of clips from Basic Instinct, and I got 3 calls from Hollywood. People called me and went, "Hey man, I just watched that Michael Douglas thing. You look like he's doing you on Basic Instinct."
Mm-hmm.
So that's that story. So
Well,
I
yeah.
had a couple of tiny scenes, and the one scene I'm in where I have some lines that you might notice is one of the scenes at the end, and I'll tell you about that. The the scene, if you remember it, So at the very end, when Michael's finally figuring it out, it starts in a corner office in a big room in a police department. Corner office is all glass, so you can see in. And it starts in there, and it dollies all around one side of the room. As it comes to the end of the room, there's a door open, so it gets some people out in the hallway. Then it comes around the other side of the room and back down, and lands on Michael Douglas, kind of leaning back on a desk. It's a brilliant shot, quite long, and everybody's saying something as it pans. I say something like, "The coat didn't fit," or whatever the hell, something like that. And the guy next to me was flown in from Broadway. And the other guy on the other side, he was a younger guy. The other guy was an older guy. And when we were waiting around before the scene, I said, "They're paying me a lot of money too. What, for like one scene, basically? What's the deal?" And the old actor said, "It's a long, complicated shot, and they don't want to waste money. So they're hiring actors for one or two lines who they know won't fuck up." And we didn't fuck up. Verhoeven, was that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Verhoeven came out and got everybody on the film, the craft service people, the gaffers, the light, everybody. He got everybody on the film who couldn't even fit in the room outside, and then he had a mic or a bullhorn, and he explained the complicated scene and explained why it was necessary for everybody to do the job correctly so that they could get it without having to redo it over and over again. It's too expensive. I never saw a director do that. It was a smart move.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went in and did it. And I think they had two or three glitches from the technical people, but none from the actors or the other people. So when you watch that scene, you blink and you miss me. And then there's a scene and the other thing that happened on Basic Instinct, which I'm sure you're aware of if you're a movie buff, they were filming it in San Francisco. And some gay activists heard about him making a dyke murder or something, and they got upset and they came down and were whistling, blowing these whistles that we blow in discos, when we were dancing. And so they stopped the production and built a set in Hollywood with actual paintings of San Francisco scenes out the window. And they shot it there, which was a benefit for me because I only had a few days' work, but it turned into a few weeks. And they wanted to put me on hold. And again, Hollywood chiseling with the little guys. They wanted to put me on hold for 2 weeks and only pay me for whatever days I worked. I'm like, no, you got me on hold, you pay me. I could be doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
So that paid my fucking medical insurance for a few years, just on the residuals. But anyway, I have a scene with Michael where I discovered this photograph in a drawer in the kitchen and handed it to him. But in most times when the screen's on TV, I'm cut out because they do that.
Yeah.
The thing they do on movies.
Your pans again, yeah. Well, when you started out, you did, as you earlier mentioned, a couple of horror films, and I would like to bring those up. The first one, of course, is Dracula's Last Rite.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
It was originally called Last Rites, but somebody else wanted the name for a movie, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So they later added Dracula's. It was made by a couple of young guys. A cinematographer named Dominic Paris was the director,
Mm-hmm.
and he eventually became the cinematographer as well. He didn't like what the cameraman was doing. And he made it down in his part of New Jersey, Vineland. And I played the sort of hero of the thing. The last shot is me killing Dracula and then walking off in a muddy, wintry field in Vine, New Jersey. When I took my oldest boy, who I live with now, he's your age. When I took him to see the movie in Times Square, there was a giant poster, really big poster of me sticking a stake in this Dracula, right? In Times Square, man, it was really cool. And I said, look, and he was about 9 at the time. He was a little, couple years older than you. And he went, Dad, it looks like you're killing an old bum with a broom handle. What the fuck?
How does it feel to kill Dracula? That must be.
It felt good. And I had fun making the movie, but it was a little stressful because the movies I had made before weren't as technical, and or even though this was way low budget and not very technical anyway, it still had some elements that I hadn't faced before.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoyed it, and I met a friend, Eric Truls, who plays one of the characters. Became a lifelong friend, so that was nice.
You followed that up with The Nesting.
Yeah, The Nesting was a much higher level movie, even though it's a low budget horror movie. It was Screen Actors Guild. That's when I got into the guild. And it was a last minute thing. It was like the night they were doing the credits. After it was shot, they realized that I couldn't use my name, Michael Lally. For some reason, they wouldn't let me use Lally by itself, which I would have preferred because that's what most people call me. So I used my middle name that my parents gave me, Michael David Lally. And that was made by a guy named, what was his name? He had done only some softcore porn movies before, but he had raised enough money and pulled enough strings to get not only John Carradine playing my character's grandfather, but Gloria Graham.
Yeah, Armand Weston was the director of that movie.
Armand Weston, that's
Mm-hmm.
right. Yeah, nice guy. He, I mean, I got to act with John Carradine and Gloria Graham. I
That
mean,
must have been awesome.
they're like icons of my childhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
She was in all those great film noirs, and of course in It's a Wonderful Life, where she's walking on the street and James Stewart and the other character compliment her on her dress, and she goes, "What, this old thing?"
Yep.
Known on the net in Oklahoma. Anyway, she was somebody I really was knocked out by. And John Carradine, Grace of Wrath and everything. So here they are, old, older. I think it was Gloria's last movie.
Yeah. I had somebody from It's a Wonderful Life on here, actually, Caroline Grimes, who played Zuzu.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I was so glad to get her. She's active in the convention scenes, and that's how I discovered she was around, and I was happy to get her on here.
Well, Gloria does some pretty sticky acting in it, but
Mm-hmm.
I got to hold her hand and I really fucked up. Again, I wasn't, I'm this poet who's acting, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Eventually I got good at it, but I wasn't bad at it. I mean, I had something I was trying to do in that movie. Watching it a few years ago, I realized I did it. I wanted to make a hero who is softer than the usual, etc. Anyway, one scene, and it's a fantasy scene, a nightmare scene or something. I'm to walk in with, I'm walking into a bordello, which Gloria Graham's character runs. She's guiding me by the hand to Robin Grace, who's the star of the film, female star. main character, who was dreaming that she was a hooker in this whorehouse in the 40s, you know. And I'm the John. Anyway, off camera, I take her hand before we go in, or she takes mine. And we're about to go in, you know, actors prepare. I didn't. I didn't know enough to. So when she took my hand, I said, "Man, how fucking cool is this? I'm holding hands with Gloria Graham." She just shot me a dirty look. What the fuck are you bringing it up with now, you idiot? And then action, you know, we went and did our bit. But John Carney was wonderful. I wrote a poem about working with him. Uh, it's written much better than I can tell the story now, but on his character's deathbed, I'm supposed to, you know, we're having a little dialogue, and before the scene starts, Armin comes over and whispers in my ear, I'd like to see tears. Action. And I'm thinking, what the fuck? I'm not that good. Where am I going to get tears from? And I look at John and Carney, and he's looking me right in the eye. That doesn't help. So I look down, and there's these gnarly, little bit like my hands now, but much worse. These gnarly fingers going in every direction. As I say in the poem, something like organic mushrooms growing beneath his skin, like some kind of organic artwork. Anyway, brought tears to my eyes. And I cried. And when they cut, everybody applauded, which was unusual, you know. So that was nice. I don't think on screen it works as well as it did in person, but well, Robin, we're friends on Facebook. She's somebody you could have on sometime, probably.
Who is it?
Robin Graves.
Robin Grays. Okay.
No,
Absolutely.
Graves. Is it Graves or Groves?
Just a second. Oh,
Little
Groves, yeah.
Groves, yeah.
Okay, you got her on Facebook, huh?
Yeah, she's a good kid.
You know what? I'll reach out to her.
And you know who else was in it? Had a very small bit part, a guy named James, James, shit, you know, our friends. He ended up having a couple of good roles in movies, and he was doing A View from the Bridge on Broadway when I saw the news in California that he had
James
OD'd.
Saxon?
No,
No.
yeah, James, an Irish name.
Yeah. Oh, Hayden?
Yeah, James.
There you go. There you go.
I'm watching the news in LA one night, and they're bringing his body out of this theater in Broadway where he was working. He OD'd on heroin. But he's got a small part in the movie. He looks wonderful in it.
Okay.
It was a hell of a fun movie to make with all those wonderful people. I was a little anxious about my own part in it and whether I was pulling it off. And I didn't, when I saw the screening, I thought maybe not. But like I say, when I saw it a few years ago, my youngest son wanted to see it. I thought, no, it might not work as well as somebody would like it to, but I did what I intended.
Well, I'll reach out to Robin Groves. Thanks for letting me know that. I'll reach out to her. Now, the last film I want to ask you about, of course, you play Sykes in White Fang.
Yeah, that was fun too. You know who I beat out for that role? Pee
Who?
Wee Herman.
Ah,
Paul Rubens. He was trying to bounce back and get more straight roles. They liked the audition. The actual work turned out not as good because what happened was I was hired and there was a director on the movie, but the guy that was in the movie with the German name, what's his name?
Just a minute. It's not coming to me. Just a
He
minute.
got, he got nominated for an Oscar for Mephistopheles.
Oh, oh, Randall Kleiser. Oh my.
No,
Yeah, he
no,
directed Grease.
yeah, no, Randall Kleiser was actor, but who's the German actor?
Oh, the German actor. I'm sorry. Klaus Maria Brandauer?
Yeah, Cosme Brandauer. He got nominated for an Oscar for Mephistopheles, but he was a pain in the ass to work with, it turns out. I
Mm-hmm.
got on the set. By the time I got on the set, Kleiser had left. He was fed up. So a guy named Louis Teague, Teague, who you'll have on too, he's no
Mm-hmm.
good. He replaced the guy. He replaced Randy on White Fang.
Okay.
So when I get there and I have the scene, I basically one scene as Sykes when the White Fang is fighting my pit bull. It was a hell of a scene. I knew James Remar a little, or got to know him. We became friends. He played the main bad guy. And Bill Moseley, he's a good,
Oh yeah, I'm going to be seeing Bill Moseley at Frightmare in the Falls.
yeah. You can tell him you interviewed me.
I will.
He should remember me.
He better remember you.
He better.
Because I'm going to ask him if he'll do this show, see if he will do it.
The three of us hung out on the
Mm,
set, so they were good guys. But anyway, in the scene, it's really talk about complicated scenes. It's in a giant barn, bigger than it appears even, so that they could fit equipment and everything. And there's people up in the rafters, and there's people around this circular pit who are betting on the fights. And then there's me and Remar and Mosley probably too, I can't remember. And this guy Brandhouse or whatever his name is. And who everybody's been telling me what a fucking pain in the ass he is. I had sat next to him when we sat down for hair and makeup before the scene, and we talked, and he seemed like a cultured European guy. He talked about poetry and art. And he seemed like a nice guy, but I don't get it.
mm-hmm.
Then it
You,
comes time to do the scene. First of all, everybody has to do the scene silently. So all the crowd around the pit and in the rafters are going, not making any noise, so that the dogs can hear the trainers. And when they brought the dogs in, everybody had to stand still until they got in the pit and be quiet. So the scene starts. I can't remember what it is. Jimmy Mima and me going back and forth, me accusing him of being scared of my pit bull or whatever. And he's got White Fang. So the pit bull, the dog they were using for White Fang or the half wolf or whatever it was, had a piece of fur right around its neck that the pit bull was trained to grab and nothing else. Fucking amazing. The trainers are going, hut, hut, whatever, and they're doing their thing. It's like choreography. It was magnificent.
mm-hmm.
So the way the scene's supposed to go is I climb into the pit to try and get my White Fang's teeth off of the pit bull. I think I had a walking cane or a stick or something. Pry the teeth loose or something. And the Brandauer character is supposed to come up behind me and turn me around and keep me from doing it. He's like White Fang's sector or something. So action, do the scene, get to the part where you're supposed to, nothing's happening, nothing. Cut. Whatever his name is, Klaus. You're supposed to grab Michael by the shoulder 3 times. Oh yes, yeah. 3 fucking times. He doesn't do it. Finally, Lewis comes up to me and says, Michael, can you act as if you sense him coming? Terrible direction. Not terrible direction, but I mean terrible solution to this jerk. You know, what it turned out was that the Klaus guy knew what he wanted the movie to look like and his scenes to look like. So he would pretend to agree and then just wouldn't do it.
Oh, wow.
Terrible pain in the ass. I met Ethan Hawke on that movie. He was a wonderful, wonderful actor and a wonderful guy. Very, very nice.
Did the Black Phone this year.
Yeah, and Jim and me, Jimmy Remar and me became good friends, and
Mm-hmm.
Me and
I've
Bill,
interviewed a couple people from the Warriors. Yep.
me and Bill became good friends for a while. I think we're still friends on Facebook. I haven't
Yeah.
seen Jimmy in a while, but
Bill Mosley's supposed to be at Frightmare in the Falls, which is a convention I'm going to this fall. So it'll be the first time I meet him. So yeah. Yeah, he's a staple in a lot of the Rob Zombie movies. So
I know a couple of the women that were in Biker Chicks in Zombie Town.
oh yeah.
Uh, anyway, just thinking about those conventions.
Have you done the convention scene?
Never have.
Oh,
I
they're a
didn't.
lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know how, and now I'm incapable.
Hmm. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, my mom's got Parkinson's, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just lost my dad back in April after 8-year battle with ALS. So
Oh, poor guy.
yeah.
Yeah, this
Well,
end of life shit ain't easy.
no, it definitely is not. But anyway, I was going to ask if you had any charities that you're involved with that you want to plug and promote on here.
Oh, that's very kind of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I would say the one that I contribute to the most is Amnesty International.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do benefits for them. I'd get stars to come out and read poetry
Mm-hmm.
in LA.
Do you have a, huh?
Go ahead.
I was going to ask if you had a web page or something like of that sort that you want to plug and promote on here.
No, I have a website on Blogspot called Lally's Alley.
Oh, I love that. Lally's Alley. Okay.
It's what they call the street I grew up on because three houses, cousins, tons of us. Yeah, and I kind of post on it every day. Whatever I post on Facebook, I post
Okay.
on. I used to post every day. Now it's every few days because it's more difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what? It was wonderful having you come on here today and talk about these films and celebrate Cool World and you know and your experiences, especially your passion for poetry.
Yeah, I can plug my latest book.
Yeah, please. Do you got it with you?
Yeah, actually, I have.
Hold it right up there. Yeah.
It's the photograph on the cover. It's a selection of my poems from 1960 to 2017. They wanted to put a picture of the way I look now on the cover. I was like, no fucking way. We put on a picture from 1989 halfway between, right in the middle of those years, taken by Gus Van Sant, who I wrote some lines for a couple of his movies.
Oh, there you go.
Another way to play.
Another way to play. Wow. Okay. 1960 to 2017 poetry, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty available. I think it's distributed by one of the major houses. And it's a press called Seven Stories Press. But yeah,
Okay.
Gus asked me to add some to the narrative of Drugstore Cowboy.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Also, a guy named Alan, I can't think of his last name, who did Pump Up the Volume. He was part of a poem of mine in Christopher Slater's speech that he gives while he's in the Jeep riding down to the school at the end of the movie.
Okay.
So I contributed some words to several films.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Well, you know what? It was wonderful having you come on here today, and celebrate these films and your work and poetry. I was just wondering if before I let you go, would you mind doing a plug for my show?
no, sure. What do you mean? How do I do it?
Just state your name and say you're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
Greg Gilbert on Pathos.
Paradise.
Paradise.
Hmm.
Hey, my name is Michael Lally, aka Michael David Lally, and I'm listening to Greg Gilbert on Python Paradise.
There you
And I
go.
have Parkinson's, so it's not easy.
You know what? I don't fault you at all. That was actually great. I've had people that have a full bill of health that screw that up 4 or 5 times. So you got her on the first go. So don't beat yourself up over that.
No, 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 I don't beat myself up. I'm
No.
not complaining, just explaining.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I wish you well. I thank you for the honor today. This was a pleasure. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. And when this is ready, I'll send you the link and you can post it wherever you want.
I will do it.
Yeah, absolutely. You mind if I add you on Facebook?
No, no, go ahead.
I'll do that. I'll do that. Anyway, God bless you and thank you so much for the honor.
Thank you, Greg.
And may it be a cool world.
Yeah, for pythons and lollies.
There you go. There you go. Take care, man.
Bye bye, brother.
Bye bye.